In an era where consumers are increasingly focused on health and nutrition, the food industry is developing functional foods enriched with natural, health-promoting ingredients, especially from Asia, a region rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge with great potential for innovation. The Food Innovation and Regulation Network, FIRN, was established to seize this opportunity by advancing the understanding of health claim regulations and to build a strong network of researchers, experts and functional food entrepreneurs in Thailand. Since 2017, FIRN has continued to drive progress through a wide range of activities, from organising international knowledge-sharing seminars, developing educational media and knowledge repositories, and providing consultation on research design and preparation for health claim applications, to studying policy mechanisms for establishing a foods with function claim system in Thailand. FIRN is marking another milestone today. Together with the key partners such as the International Union of Food Science and Technology, IU-FOST, we recognise the urgent need for a platform to exchange knowledge in science, nutrition, regulation and business development. The goal is clear: to accelerate the safe and effective entry of Asia's functional food ingredients into the global market. This event will bring together experts, researchers and entrepreneurs from ASEAN and beyond to drive tangible innovations in functional foods and advance regulatory frameworks that safeguard public health, ensure consumer safety, and strengthen the resilience of Asia's food systems. Together, we can transform Asia's heritage into global health solutions for the future. In an era where consumers are increasingly focused on health and nutrition, the food industry is developing functional foods enriched with natural, health-promoting ingredients, especially from Asia, a region rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge with great potential for innovation. The Food Innovation and Regulation Network, FIRN, was established to seize this opportunity by advancing the understanding of health claim regulations and to build a strong network of researchers, experts and functional food entrepreneurs in Thailand. Since 2017, FIRN has continued to drive progress through a wide range of activities, from organising international knowledge-sharing seminars, developing educational media and knowledge repositories, and providing consultation on research design and preparation for health claim applications, to studying policy mechanisms for establishing a foods with function claim system in Thailand. FIRN is marking another milestone today. Together with the key partners such as the International Union of Food Science and Technology, IU-FOST, we recognise the urgent need for a platform to exchange knowledge in science, nutrition, regulation and business development. The goal is clear: to accelerate the safe and effective entry of Asia's functional food ingredients into the global market. This event will bring together experts, researchers and entrepreneurs from ASEAN and beyond to drive tangible innovations in functional foods and advance regulatory frameworks that safeguard public health, ensure consumer safety, and strengthen the resilience of Asia's food systems. Together, we can transform Asia's heritage into global health solutions for the future.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you all to the Asian Health Claim for science to practice at ProPac Asia 2026. My name is Suvalak Aswasanti.
My name is Sudatip Satan.
Today we're delighted to be the master of ceremonies to conduct the event this morning. And we'll briefly go through today's agenda.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. For the brief schedule for today, in the first part before the break, we will have a couple speakers. They are renowned speakers from several countries. And after the coffee break, we will have the panel discussion. I hope that you will learn a lot of things and we will share a lot of experience and any concerns related to the health claim and regulatory affairs. So please, Dr. Suvalak.
So to mark the starting point of today's event, may I invite Professor Emeritus Aman Viragantakusuma. Sorry, it's a little bit struggle at the beginning. I need to warm up a little bit. And he is a renowned professor, former rector of IPB University, Indonesia, immediate past president of the International Union of Food Science and Technology, or IUFOS. He also have served many important positions in Asia and also in the world of food. He is a fellow of the Indonesia Academy of Science and have served over a decade as scientific director of UZ Southeast Asia Regional Board of Directors. He also representing Indonesia as ambassador to UNESCO during 2004-2008, promoting cultural and scientific exchange and help promoting global leadership. To name a few, he also president of the International Academy of Food Science and Technology, or IAFOS, during 2020 to 2022, and a president of IUFOS during 2022 to 2024. His decorations still go on, but I will wrap this introductions with his recent Lifetime Achievement Awards from the International Union of Food Science and Technologies. Because of his long dedication to the world of food and science and technology, he will receive Lifetime Achievement Awards to be presented at the World Congress in October in Hong Kong. Please give a big round of applause and welcome Professor Aman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very kind and nice introduction. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, regulators, scientists, industry leaders, entrepreneurs, of course, all the participants in this room and also online, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my remarks, I would like to ask your permission. Probably I may spend about 10 minutes. Sorry for Sam. Maybe you extend a little bit, 5 minutes. But before I start my remarks again, I would like to read the quotes for that. Can you put the next one? All right. So this is the quotes. Throughout history, civilization has been shaped by the resources they possess. Some were blessed with gold, some with oil, and some with technology. ASEAN possesses something equally valuable, one of the world's richest reservoir of biodiversity, traditional knowledge, and cultural wisdom. The question before us today is simple but profound. Can we transform this heritage into scientifically validated health innovation that improves lives, create economic opportunities, and earn the trust of consumers around the world? So with that quotes, once again, I would like to thank you to the organizers, to our good friends, Professor Pavini, the President-elect of IUFOS, also the Director of Ferns, for Samuel Godefroy, the President of IUFOS, and Dr. Me, the President of the FOSTAT, and all the participants in this room. Is it bring down? Oh, here. Okay, go now. So our gathering today continues a journey that begins only a few weeks ago in Hong Kong, where scientists, regulators, industry leaders, and policy experts came together to discuss from Asia how Asia can build innovation ready food regulatory system that capable of supporting the next generation of functional ingredients and health promoting foods. Today, we take the next stage, the next step, not simply discussing regulation, not simply discussing health claims, but discussing how ASEAN can transform its extraordinary heritage into scientific innovation, economic opportunity, and public health benefit for future generations. When people speak about strategic resources, they often think about minerals, energy, technology, or financial capital. But ASEAN possesses another form of wealth that's equally valuable and perhaps even more sustainable. It is our biodiversity, it is our traditional knowledge, it is our accumulated human experience. For centuries, communities across Southeast Asia have relied on foods, herbs, spices, botanicals, and traditional preparation not only to nourish the body, but also to promote health and well-being. Long before the modern concept of functional foods, bioactive compounds, microbiome science, or precision nutrition emerged, our ancestors were already observing, learning, and passing knowledge from one generation to the next. Across our region, we find remarkable tradition. For example, the Indonesian practice of jamu, Thai herbal preparation, traditional medicinal plants of the Philippines, Malay ethnobotanical knowledge, Vietnamese botanical tradition, and the strong influence of Chinese medicinal knowledge throughout the region. This tradition represents more than cultural practices. Recently, Indonesia celebrated an important milestone when jamu was inscribed in the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This recognition was not simply a celebration of a traditional beverage. It was an international recognition of a living knowledge system, a system that has survived because generations of people continued to believe in this value. But let us be clear. Recognition as cultural heritage is not scientific validation. And scientific validation is not automatic commercialization. Recognition is only the beginning. The real challenge before us is much greater. Can we transform heritage into evidence? Can we transform traditional wisdom into scientific knowledge? Can we transform local practices into globally respected innovation? This question should inspire all of us because preserving traditional knowledge is important. But advancing traditional knowledge through science is even more important. The responsibility now rests with our universities, research institutions, scientists, and innovators. Our task is not merely to preserve knowledge from the past. Our task is to unlock its potential for the future. There is where science becomes essential. Traditional knowledge tells us where to look. Science tells us what is true. Innovation transforms knowledge into solutions. Regulation builds public trust. Together, they form a pathway. Traditional practice, scientific research, innovation, regulatory acceptance, consumer trust, and societal impact. Without science, traditional knowledge remains anecdotal. Without innovation, scientific discoveries remain in journals. Without regulation, consumer lack of confidence. Without trust, even the best innovation fail to create impact. Therefore, health claims should never be viewed merely as marketing statement. Health claims are the final outcomes of a long scientific journey. They require evidence, they require transparency, and they require credibility. And they require collaboration among researchers, industry, regulators, and policymakers. The challenge before ASEAN is not whether we have promising ingredients. The challenge is whether we can generate the scientific evidence necessary to support their safe and responsible use. This is precisely why the discussion initiated in Hong Kong focused on building more predictable, science-based pathway for assessing functional ingredients and associated health claims across Asia. Many regions around the world are investing heavily in health and wellness innovation. Europe has built strong regulatory system. North America has developed sophisticated scientific infrastructure. But ASEAN possesses a unique advantage. We have modern science, and we have centuries of documented human experience. Few regions in the world can claim both. Consider China and India. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda have survived for thousands of years. Today, both countries are investing heavily in scientific validation, standardization, quality assurance, and commercialization. They have transforming traditional knowledge into innovation ecosystem. ASEAN can do the same, but we do not need to copy others. We can create our own model, a model built upon our own biodiversity, our own cultures, and our own development priorities. A model that respects traditional knowledge while demanding scientific rigor. A model that protects consumers while encouraging innovation. A model that creates opportunities not only for large multinational companies, but also the small and medium enterprises, farmers, local communities, and young entrepreneurs. Indeed, ASEAN may be uniquely positioned to demonstrate that innovation and heritage are not opposing forces. They are complementary assets. As traditional ingredients move from local communities into regional and global markets, another important question arises. How do we ensure that the communities who preserve this knowledge also benefit from its success? Innovation must not come at the expense of those who are the custodian of traditional knowledge. This is why international frameworks such as UNESCO, WTO, and WIPO have become increasingly important. UNESCO reminded us of our responsibility to safeguard cultural heritage and transmit knowledge to future generations. The WTO reminds us that innovation must be supported by fair and transparent trade system. And WIPO remind us that traditional knowledge deserves recognition and protection. Of course, we also recognize the importance of other UN agencies such as FAO, WHO, and also UNIDO. So within the global innovation landscape, these principles are not obstacle to innovation. They are foundation for sustainable innovation. The futures belong not to those who exploit traditional knowledge. The future belongs to those who responsibly transform traditional knowledge into scientific, social, and economic values. So finally, in my remarks, I would like to mention that the future will not be shaped by those who merely preserve traditional knowledge. The future will be shaped by those who transform traditional knowledge into credible science, responsible innovation, and trusted health solution. ASEAN possesses one of the richest reservoirs of biodiversity and traditional wisdom anywhere in the world. Yet, biodiversity alone creates no value. Traditional knowledge alone creates no innovation. Innovation begins when curiosity becomes research. Research becomes evidence. Evidence becomes trust. And trust becomes societal impact. Therefore, our challenge today is not simply to discuss health claims. Our challenge is to generate the science that makes health claim credible. Our challenge is to conduct the research and unlock the value of ASEAN biodiversity. Our challenge is to build regulatory system that encourage innovation while protecting consumers. Our challenge is to create opportunities to SMEs, farmers, local communities, and future generations. Let us make ASEAN not merely a market for innovation developed elsewhere. Let us make ASEAN a source of globally respected scientific discoveries. Let us make ASEAN a source of evidence-based health products. Let us make ASEAN a source of responsible innovation. And let us ensure that the wisdom of our ancestors inspire the science of today and the innovation of tomorrow. If we succeed, ASEAN will contribute far more than new products. ASEAN will contribute a new model to the world, a model where heritage, science, innovation, trade, and public trust advance together. Finally, let me give you the key message. Traditional knowledge inspires discovery. Science creates evidence. Innovation delivers value. Regulation builds trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Aman, for a very impactful talk in the morning. We're starting out with a brightful future for the health claim and regulation things. So now let me move to the next speaker. It's my honor to introduce the current IUFOS president, Professor Samuel Godefroy. Professor Godefroy is a former Director General of Health Canada's Food Directorate, Canada's food standard setting body, and a former vice chair of the FAO Codex Alimentarius Commission. So Professor Godefroy's career is defined by the executive level regulatory leadership. He is also the vice chair of the today he is a founder and president of the GFROS, Global Food Regulatory Science Society. He acts as a strategic advisor to the UN and the FAO, shaping the rules that govern market access and compliance worldwide. Here he is with us today to tackle a critical mechanism for market growth in our region, presenting on access to novel food ingredients and claims in Asia, leveling the playing field in Asia. So please put your hands together for Professor Samuel Godefroy.
Good morning to you all. And it is a true pleasure and a privilege to be here. And I would like to start by thanking the organizers for this opportunity, but also congratulating the organizers for putting together an event such as this one, promoting innovation and market access opportunities for products stemming from the region and beyond. I will be building, in fact, on many of the principles and the statements made by Professor Aman. I'm always challenged with these, so I'm just gonna, get the hang of it. Yes, okay, so I know where I'm going now. Perfect. I'm going to be reiterating some of the same foundations and the same observations at the beginning, and that is a fact. Asia today, and particularly the ASEAN region, is at the forefront of food innovation. We are witnessing across the region an unprecedented level of investment in food technologies, in the availability of functional ingredients, in the development of bioactive compounds, and also we're looking at the development of a new generation of sustainable food production systems. We're also seeing in this region one of the greatest competitive advantage that was mentioned by Aman as well, which is a rich heritage amongst the richest around the world, a heritage of traditional knowledge, of food cultures that continues to inspire. Thai traditional foods and traditional therapies, Chinese traditional therapies, and I can actually quote so many of those across the region. Now, many of these ingredients that are anchored in heritage are attracting scientific and commercial interest. And we are again looking at the tradition to inspire these developments. Now, as Aman mentioned as well, modern science is helping these traditional ingredients becoming better characterized, better refined. And we are looking at incorporating them more and more in new food applications. And this is really not because, it's a simple inspiration, because there is a demand for that. Consumers are becoming more health conscious and are asking for these new applications, whether it be to address their health and wellness objectives, to address sustainability objectives, or to be more personalized and more targeted in what they wish to have through their food. So, in fact, when we look at the innovation ecosystem in the region, it is one of the most vibrant and most dynamic internationally. So the challenge that we're facing is not lack of innovation, it's not lack of scientific capacity, and it's neither also lack of entrepreneurial ambition. The challenge that is being faced by innovators is essentially access to markets. And when we say access to markets, it's mostly that predictability of access to markets and the efficiency to get to those markets. Now, when we're looking at a company working in this field and commercializing these ingredients, you will be looking that this company will be facing various regulatory requirements, different data expectation, different review processes, and also different timelines. And the timelines, by the way, are not days or months, they tend to be years. So an ingredient that may be accepted in one jurisdiction can face significant barriers in another, and these barriers create uncertainties, they create increased costs, and as you know, investment hates one thing: uncertainty. So this actually leads to slow investment and ultimately will also result in delaying consumers' access to these safe and beneficial solutions and innovations. So for this reason, the discussion that we're having, and including whether be it for these ingredients or the claims that are associated with them, so essentially the way these products are characterized to consumers, it's not about fostering innovation itself. It is about creating the conditions that allow innovations to move more efficiently from the laboratory, from the production facility to the marketplace. In other words, our challenge is not innovation, it is primarily access. Now, to give examples of the hurdles, and I already actually spoke about some of these, I mentioned, that for a particular ingredient or even a claim associated with it, you will have different categorizations, different definitions. An ingredient that is considered in some jurisdictions as conventional in one market, it will be considered novel in another market. A health claim that is considered as not warranting pre-market oversight in one market will be warranting extensive substantiation requirement in another market. And we are witnessing the same type of diversity in the safety assessment approaches. We're looking at various requirements of toxicological data, various levels of evidence that may be sought, different forms of scientific substantiation, and the review timelines, as I mentioned, also vary considerably. In some systems, you have a relatively predictable environment. In some others, you will have lengthy evaluations and, in many instances, uncertain outcomes. Now, the consequences of this are quite significant. We are having regulatory complexity, we're having higher developmental costs, and again, delayed market access. So ultimately, we find ourselves in a situation where, again, if I take the examples, one ingredient supported by the same body of evidence, the same scientific information, would be approved successfully in one market, yet not accessible at all or partially considered in another market. And this is a challenge definitely for industry, but that's also a challenge for regulators. Because if you have a regulatory regime that is not flexible enough, even for the regulators themselves, you are spending resources on things that may not warrant that level of attention. And that's essentially not the best investment of taxpayers' dollars when you have so many priorities that you need to address. So essentially, it is also a challenge for rationalizing or using rationally the regulatory resources that are available. Now, of course, there aren't only problems. There are definitely solutions. And amongst the solutions that we are witnessing are actually anchored in this country, in Thailand. We have witnessed the development of a number of initiatives bringing together a coalition of partners and stakeholders that are trying to alleviate these hurdles. And I would like to mention specifically the Food Innovation Regulation Network, or FERN, inspired and led by our president-elect of IOFAST, Professor Pavinish Ashoti, and supported by many actors in the country, established in Thailand and actually clearly demonstrated a value in bringing together regulators, food science community, the industry, and the variety of stakeholders to create this dialogue, but also to support the availability of the scientific information on the basis of which these regulatory decisions can be made and hopefully support these market access opportunities. Now, building on this initiative and considering now the region, ASEAN, and even broader Asia as a continent, we thought, why not try to see how we can build an initiative at the continent level? And this is what Professor Aman was mentioning earlier. Over a month and a bit ago, we got together in Hong Kong, and not to reinvent the wheel, in fact, rather to build on the momentum that was created by a number of initiatives that are underway in the continent, and trying to develop an effort that can speed up a more innovation-ready environment for Asia's innovators, particularly in the food production sector. Now, our goal is to identify and better characterize those hurdles, and to try to put some solutions, but try to be also more concrete in what we try to address. We have identified primarily the need to offer a better environment for functional ingredients, and particularly those that are rooted in traditional knowledge, their safety assessment, the substantiation of that safety assessment, but also the substantiation of the claims that are associated with these ingredients being incorporated into food formulations. We're looking primarily at the non-nutrient claims associated with these ingredients, And we also discussed the opportunity of building on what has happened already in the continent and building on the successes of some jurisdiction trying to propagate that success. Now, as we say, a picture or a set of pictures may be better than words. So I'm going to have like a short video introducing this initiative. It is a YouTube video there, a few minutes. What I would like simply to mention is that since that video was produced, many other partners actually joined this initiative. So I would not want to restrict those who are intervening there. And I would like to mention particularly ILSI Southeast Asia as a key partner that is supporting us in this effort, but also to mention many more academic centers with whom we wish to collaborate. Yes. I tried not to incorporate, videos into the presentation, otherwise it becomes too heavy. So I thought this would be an easier way, but we'll see if it does work. If it's posing a challenge, I will continue, and I will make the audience endure my voice rather than somebody else's. Sure. No, I'm fine. It's
Asia is transforming centuries-old traditional ingredients into modern, health-focused products. But with innovation comes a critical challenge. How do we ensure these products are safe, their claims substantiated, and that they can reach consumers efficiently across different markets? Today, innovators face varying rules on novelty, diverse approval processes, and inconsistent approaches to health claims. What's approved in one country may face years of evaluation in another. That's why leading organizations across Asia are launching a groundbreaking initiative, a collaborative platform to support innovation-ready regulatory systems, fully aligned with Codex principles. Led by G-Force, Fern Thailand, Shanghai JS Life Science Institute, and Sun Yat-sen University Hong Kong, we're bringing together scientific organizations, ensuring methodological rigor, food regulators validating approaches, industry and SMEs reflecting innovation realities, academia supporting evidence generation. Because no single stakeholder can address food innovation's complexity alone. Our approach is built on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, consensus regional guidance. Codex consistent guidance on safety assessment, claims substantiation, and novelty triggers. Pillar 2, collaborative scientific assessments. Multi-country evaluation generating consensus documents and supporting faster decision-making. Pillar 3, information sharing platform. A digital platform providing access to guidance, assessments, and ingredient data, supporting transparency and knowledge exchange. We're partnering with food science and technology organizations across Asia, acting as catalysts to engage regulators, academic institutions, and industry organizations, including food ingredient developers, all with one goal: to support access to innovative food products while protecting consumers and meeting their expectations. These partnerships ensure our work remains aligned with national requirements, responsive to markets, and grounded in practical implementation. We aim to contribute to Asia's leadership in shaping an innovation-friendly food regulatory environment in Asia and beyond. This initiative is about building shared scientific understanding, aligning on principles and methodologies, enabling practical cooperation across borders, leading to faster access to safe innovation, stronger regulatory efficiency, and Asia leading the global future of food innovation. Together, we're creating a framework that enables innovation while ensuring safety, transparency, and consumer confidence. Because when we collaborate, we don't just regulate innovation, we enable it.
So, one of the key elements that I would like to mention here is that this is a journey, and it's going to be a long journey. But we are using this journey with multiple milestones. In fact, this is one of them. This is an opportunity to share, to engage, and even actually hopefully to recruit partners and collaborators in this particular effort. As I mentioned, this is meant to be an inclusive initiative, and I would like to also make an open call for those who want to join us in this effort to continue to engage with us. Anybody from the leadership of FERN, of FOSTAT, of FIFSTA, of IOFOST, and of the Global Food Regulatory Science Society can be your contact point, and you can be joining us in this effort. We're also going to be dedicating a specific discussion during the upcoming World Food Congress, which is going to be a major milestone where we're going to be taking stock of what happened in the past 6 months. So you see our timelines are 6 months limited in the sense that we would like to see progress taking place. Speaking of those 3 pillars and what we decided to do about them, and giving you maybe more specific illustrations of what we intend to accomplish even in a short period of time. Under pillar 1, what we call regulatory guidance, we would like to create more consistency in the requirements. So for example, what should a dossier for a health claim substantiation look like? Can we build, for example, on the guidance that was developed by the Southeast Asia Nutrition Society on health claims substantiation, and can we adopt that? Can we apply or see the application of that on some pilot products? And in that regard, pillar 2 is meant to be illustrating some examples in that regard. So it was decided by the community of scientists that gathered in Hong Kong a month and a bit ago to take 2 examples on which collaborative work will be developed. One of them is on an ingredient that actually represents that partial or that discrepancy in approvals, that's GABA, approved in Japan, with different types of approval in Thailand and not approved at all in other Asian jurisdictions. We've also identified another ingredient, and in this case more rooted in tradition, and that is goji berry, which is essentially a product or from which we can extract so many potential derivatives, widely available in China, and look at the initial information both from a safety assessment but also from a health claim substantiation. The third pillar is aimed to address one of the key imperatives and the challenges that was identified. In many instances, information is available, but it's not accessible and it's not usable. Potentially because it is available in one particular language, so for example in Japanese, in Chinese, or in Thai, therefore not necessarily easily accessible to regulators across the continent. And in some other instances because the information is not collated in a manner that is consistent and harmonious. And can we actually create an agreed upon template for this information? In fact, since the work has started, or I would say maybe more catalyzed by the discussions that we've had, we've witnessed, for example, sharing from colleagues from Indonesia through the leadership of the Institute of Food Technologists of the development of a platform looking at disseminating the information related to the safety assessment as well as the substantiation of claims. So these are some practical examples of what we are trying to achieve under these three pillars. Now, I know that I have only a few minutes left, so what I would like to mention is the linkages with Codex. So, now, of course, in this particular case, we are using Codex guidance and particularly the risk analysis principles as the decision-making framework and the logical framework according to which all our work will be developed. But also this work has been anchored in Codex from the start, in the sense that this work was inspired, in fact, by another discussion that started in this country. So in fact, in August of last year, we met and we identified food innovation and particularly transformation of regulatory frameworks to enable food innovation as one of the key challenges that perhaps Asia as a continent could work on, with the possibility of Codex offering more guidance around that. And a discussion paper was introduced by China, supported by IOFOST, at the last meeting of CC Asia. That is the FAO-WHO Coordinating Committee for Asia, for those who are not so familiar with the Codex acronyms. Basically, CC Asia discussed what was included in the discussion paper, and what was included was to say, well, again, we have a huge potential in Asia for innovation, but there may be a need for guidance that is anchored in Codex, including the propagation of Codex principles in the way innovative ingredients and claims could be addressed. Now, CC Asia did not make a decision about this, rather highlighted the interest and directed the members to further investigate and to identify what, if anything, Codex could do more, including at the regional level. So one of the outputs of the initiative that we started is also to identify what type of guidance can be better codified in Codex texts and can be provided to Asian food regulators. In other words, if I'm a regulator and I'm interested in developing a functional food regulation, a health claim regulation, where do I start from? What are the risk-based approaches that I should be considering? Should I consider all claims equivalent? How do I apply a risk lens on the substantiation? And of course, there are all the practical aspects associated with that. Now, I hope that through this illustration, I shared with you what we have been trying to do. And I know time is up, but I'm going to actually maybe indulge you with a very short video to give you the outputs of the Hong Kong meeting, to give you the future direction. 2 minutes, if you indulge me with that. And thank you very much for your attention, by the way.
The question is, in the different regulatory systems, the approval for new ingredients, in particular those new functional ingredients, is very different from each other.
This will be very important for the general population and help them to understand the usefulness of these traditional ingredients, how they can use it in their daily diet, in the traditional diet, how the consumption of these on a regular pattern can help in maintaining health, improving health. Approval by the regulatory authorities give confidence of the science for these kinds of traditional ingredients.
We look forward to having so many organizations that potentially will be involved with us, including IUFOS, GFOS, and GFERN as Global Food Innovation Regulation Network, which will actually be spearheading this concept, hopefully will grow around the world.
I think we have done a great job. We made a lot of progress in these discussions, and I think we have come to a great conclusion.
This will be a very fruitful project for Asia countries, not only for consumer health protection, but also for the development of the food ingredient industry.
A good platform for discussion among scientists, regulators, and also food industry in making good progress in this effort.
We think it's time that Asia must have a great way of managing and championing our own commodity functional ingredient and products through innovation and with a clear view of regulatory framework in order to make sure that we have scientific basis, as evidence-based for safety and also health claim and communication to consumers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And another thank you and big round of applause for Professor Godfrey for painting the big picture about what our initiative is about, and also showing everybody about how we could consolidate the efforts of ASEAN to promote the health claim for our indigenous plants and also medicinal plants that we have as our wisdoms. And we have been hearing from esteemed professors and academy already. Now I would like to shift gear forward for the industry perspective. Up next, I would like to welcome Mr. Matt Kovac, the Chief Executive Officer of Food Industry Association, which is a pan-Asia trade association representing food, beverage, ingredients, and packaging company. Matt had led FIA for over 11 years and have been visioning for the betterment of the trades and food industry at large. Without further ado, we would like to welcome Matt to the stage. The stage is yours.
So good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yes, good. Okay. Actually, I might have to wear my glasses. So we've had two amazing presentations. I'm not a professor, and I'm not that technical, but I'm going to spin it around a bit. And I think what I'm looking at is trying to look at it a little bit more from the consumer angle and from the industry angle, of course. So thanks to Sami and Aman as well, Pak Aman. Great presentations. I will copy it just a little bit, but thankfully not too much. But what I want to keep coming back to is a central point, right? So getting the functional ingredient approved, getting a claim cleared is probably start of the job, right? It's a very important job, and it's not an easy job, as explained by the two previous speakers. But the finish line is the real person. It's the consumer, okay? They are in a kitchen, or they are in a supermarket or a convenience store in Thailand, because it's an amazing amount of products here. And what they're trying to do is to understand what it is. Can they trust it? Is that benefit real? And can they afford it? Okay? So that's kind of the test that I would love to talk about today. And yes. So, thanks to Sami, he set the scene on dealing with access. Access to novel ingredients, access to claims, of course talking about that fragmentation of regulations and completely different interpretations sometimes as well. And of course that work is essential, but as I said, access is the supply side of the story. And it tells us what is allowed onto the shelf. But whether anyone actually buys it, takes it home, consumes it is a completely different matter. So perhaps I want to really turn this session turn the question around a bit. Will the consumer understand it? Of course, I've said, will they afford it? Can they trust it? Can they use it every day? Hopefully every day, maybe every week, maybe every other day, I don't know. But that's a slightly different question from whether we can simply just get it on the shelf. And sometimes the gap between the two is where functional foods kind of die, in some cases, yeah? It's not easy for industry as well. So access to the ingredients and claims is that permission part, and the delivery, getting someone to buy it, is the outcome, and I hope to focus on that outcome. I'm so sorry. That way. Okay. So why now? We've got a few, actually there are many competing forces, so I'm going to focus only on two, and both of them actually do favor Asia. So the first one is demographic. Asia and the Pacific is aging faster than any region in human history. So there are different statistics, but this one is, I'm so sorry, it's so small, UNSCAP, so it's from the UN. I've tried to use that data. We already host about sort of 60% of the world's older people, 50, that's me, 50s and up to 60s and 70s, so I'm part of that aging part now, gosh. And so by 2050, what we're saying is 1 in 4 people in this region will probably be over 60, close to 1.3, 1.4 billion. Just to put that in context, it took Europe nearly 80 to 100 years to get there, and it's only taken 25 to 30 years for Asia, so it's rapidly aging. And sadly, what that means is some people are going to be old before they become wealthy, or even middle class. Bear that in mind as well. And then the second force is behavioral. This, for me, and me being in this region for 25 years across China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore, people have definitely stopped asking if the food is safe and convenient, right? That does not happen in Bangkok. That doesn't happen in Manila, no matter what some Western people think. What they're asking, and as Professor Aman actually showed the long history, is what will it do for them? Is that about immunity, gut health, healthy aging? I need a bit of that. Energy, mobility, cognition, or even metabolic health. I don't think a lot of consumers go into a store there and say, hey, metabolic health, but you know what I mean. They are looking at different things in their own language. And so these are no longer niche. They are kind of everyday vocabulary on the supermarket aisle, on the e-commerce site, or in the convenience store. So put simply, the customer has changed the question. It's not just whether it's safe. What can it do for me in my health? And that sets us up, as Prof. Aman and Sami have alluded to, or shown actually, is it really sets us up for the next couple of decade or so for industry in Asia to really have an amazing opportunity in this market. So, probably a point that we don't make enough of, although my previous speakers just did. Asia did not import functional foods. In fact, we pretty much out here invented the category. I'm sorry if I say we as a British white male who's lived in Asia, but I really feel part of Asia because I'm never going back to the UK. So if I say that, it's we. Yeah. So the term functional food was coined in Japan, I think it probably in the 80s, right? And that was in a direct response to rising healthcare costs, other issues in the 80s in Japan. But also, they knew they were aging rapidly as well, and they still are. So they built kind of the first regulated health claim system, FOSHU, foods for specialized health uses, late 80s, early 90s. Absolutely decades ahead of the Europeans and decades ahead of our friends in North America. But underneath that regulation, of course, sits something a lot older and deeper, and Professor Aman reflected on that, particularly for ASEAN, more than Japan. So fermented foods. So I didn't like fermented foods that much, but my wife is Korean, so I've had to fall in love with kimchi. Botanicals, of course, traditional medicines as well. And kind of that everyday cultural belief, really, that right across the region, food and health are similar. And, that's a similar conversation. And consumers, whether they're in Seoul or Bangkok, they don't need persuading now that what they eat shapes how they feel. And they already believe it. And the kind of the belief shows up a little bit in the behavior. So in Thailand, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, who did a Voice of the Consumer survey just at the end of last year, this is for Thailand, around 4 in 10 consumers now say they regularly take supplements or vitamins to support their health, and that compares against a global average of 3 in 10. So that's quite significant for Thailand, right? So the instinct to use food and nutrition to stay well is pretty much stronger here than other places around the world. So our opportunity is kind of unusual as well. We're building on a belief that already exists, connecting modern nutrition science to something consumers across the region have held for generations. And in a way, that's a little bit of an easier sell, and a much bigger one as well, okay? I say a little bit easier sell. There's a little bit more to it than that. But we're in a really good position. So, obviously, let me be clear, and I think everyone in the room is very clear about what these products are and what they're not. They are foods, they're not pharmaceuticals. But they earn their trust by being honest about that. And the thing is, I want to say, is the moment we allow them to be marketed, there's nothing wrong with marketing. This is a bit of a subjective word, but if we market these things as miracle cures or we overdo it, we really damage our credibility. And sadly, I will be honest, we do have that in the marketplaces. But if you think about it, at population scale, food is the most popular lever we have. I am definitely not going to talk about GLPs and Wegovy and Ozempic or any of those things. That's another conversation, and a very interesting conversation. But right now, food is the lever we have in Asia. Of course, fortification of staples. Everyone knows that. Reformulation, that's taking the nutrient of concern out, sugar, salt, fat. Adding in your fiber, protein, that's hot at the moment. Of course, probiotics as well. And targeted functional ingredients where the science genuinely supports. And to be honest, none of this is particularly dramatic on its own. But if you put all of that together and you apply that across millions of consumers, whether it's in meals or buying products on the go, then, and snacks as well even, then they can support action against diet-related disease burden, which is rising across Southeast Asia, China and India. You know that, obesity, chronic diseases. But I'm going to be clear here. But functional foods do not solve every single nutritional challenge, okay? And if you hear that from someone in industry, let me know. I'll go and talk to them about it, because that's not what it is about. But where they are responsible, and what I mean responsible, they're responsibly formulated, very clearly communicated, and genuinely accessible, they are a very serious part of the solution. And obviously the word we have to focus on with consumers is being responsible. In a way, the good news is it's working. Now, and I will put my hand up and completely support Prof. Aman and Professor Sami as well in saying, listen, we have some serious regulatory barriers, but if you look at the market, it is growing. Quietly, but these are big numbers. Functional really has left that kind of niche supermarket aisle because it's in dairy, particularly in Thailand, where you can go into and get a Meiji milk for 32 grams of protein. Pretty cool, and at a much lower price point than Singapore. So I need to buy a load and take it back with me. It's in other beverages, it's in cereals, it's in snacks, it's in everything. And I'm not going to get into debate today about putting functional into everything, but into those specific products that really have a clear health benefit. So the clearest sign of success is that it's becoming less remarkable in a way, because it's in the yogurt, in the noodles, and in your morning drink, right? And the numbers, of course, you can see here on the slide. Asia Pacific now is the largest functional foods market in the world. So it accounts for more than a third of global value. And there are different estimates, and you can challenge me on that. And they do vary by definition as well. So the region now is around $130 to $140 billion in 2025, and that could double, almost double, to $250 billion, according to precedent research that came out last year. Those are very significant numbers, okay? And of course, Japan has been leading on this for quite some time. Right now, I think at the end of last year, there's more than 7,000 products with a functional claim in the system in Japan. It's quite a lot, yeah? And don't forget, of course, the added benefit for industry, and the reason why they're looking at this is some of those products do command anything between 1.5, 2 times the price of other products as well. So from an industry perspective, there's a great opportunity here to look at how you can grow and how you can improve your margin. And businesses do need to make money, okay? Okay, so I'm having to speed up a little bit. So if it's working, what are some of the problems? And not going back into Sami or Prof Aman's presentation. Part of the other problem is the shelf is really shouting, okay? And particularly in Thailand as well, there's a lot, which is great, you've got choice. But what I mean by this is, and probably Prof Aman, what he said a little bit about marketing, you see some very broad wellness language on everything, okay? Sometimes you see some very vague claims. Sometimes you even see identical products that are making different promises. And you have almost no way, a general consumer has no way of telling which claims are scientifically substantiated and sometimes which are a little bit more marketing. And we recognize that, right? Which is why we want the regulation in place, okay? And I'll get to that in a minute. So the challenge there is a genuinely good product, the one with that real evidence behind it, it can get a little bit lost in the noise, okay? And what we don't want is just a clever logo and nothing underneath it. Really, we don't, okay? So, and let me put that plainly. Look, if that's very English. If a consumer cannot decode it on the front of pack in 3 seconds, it does not exist to them. It's that quick, right? And this isn't really hard, yeah? And so that's the reason why claims regulation really matters. And you won't often hear someone who represents industry say regulation on this is really important, but it is. Because it's not technical compliance. It really is not. It aids a consumer communication tool, if it's done right as well. It really can help. And so if you have that really well-designed claim system in the end, it's like a translation service between the R&D lab and the shopping basket. Yeah? So that's what we want to look at. But the delivery is really, really quite hard because a functional food has to pass all these tests, it has to do it at the same time, and it has to pass all of them, right? So you can't be selective. Of course, it has to be credible and understandable, and one of the most important things, it has to taste really good as well. I mean, if it doesn't, then you're going to take that product once maybe, but you might not go back to it. And of course, it has to be accessible, and I think what Prof Aman's presentation was very interesting. It has to be culturally relevant. And there's a lot of indigenous botanicals and other things that can be really culturally relevant. Whether or not that can translate to another market is a different thing. So delivering that functionality in a product people want, they can understand, they can trust, they can afford it, all at once is actually very, very difficult. And in Asia, we've just done our study. I don't think it's completed yet, but it's almost. Sharila's says it's not. But anyway, so the fragmentation is real, okay? So we looked at 14 Asian markets, and they recognize kind of the same codex claim categories, but classifications, evidence standards, approval pathways, interpretation, it is all different. Now, from an industry perspective, and for a regional business, which is what most of the companies that we represent, that is a fragmentation tax, effectively, paid on every single launch. And it's something that we really need to address, because if we want to make these functional foods more affordable and more accessible, you've got to look at reducing that regulation. Sorry, Sam, you said that, Sami, as well, and I fully support that, right? So, go figure. What's that one key word that we need to build between regulatory authorities, the industry, and ultimately the consumer? It's that word, trust, okay? And trust really is the asset that defines kind of the next growth phase across these different categories. But we can also self-sabotage a lot from what I said earlier by not being responsible as well, okay? So we really need to anchor that in innovation and in a real consumer need, not kind of just inventing something. So communicating that transparently, improving the taste, of course, and the formats as well. So the different formats for consumers is really important. I'm being shouted at because I'm taking too long, so I will hurry up a bit. Okay, nearly there. But of course, we can't do this alone, so Sami always has a call to action. I've learned a lot from his presentation, so here's mine, but it's pretty obvious, embarrassingly simple. For regulators, we need clear and predictable pathways. Please, give us that. Let's work on that. And the fantastic work that Fern, RU Fost, FIFSTA, and everybody else is doing around this is fundamentally important, okay? What I would say is that we need more of a localized evidence base. I'm not going to say the word Asian because that doesn't mean anything. It's like, okay, so it's, Asian diets. What's in Thailand? What does that mean for Thailand, for Indonesia, for China, for India, whatever? It's not something that we need to borrow wholesale, and we don't need to because we invented the category and it's here. So really demonstrating to the world what it means and how you can develop those for the different markets as well, okay? And so, and really what we want to look at as a consumer should be able to look at that product, understand its benefit, 3 seconds, not easy, and trust that benefit is backed by science. Okay, that's really important. And I think basically everything has to be measured against whether it makes those moments easier for the consumer to buy. Last slide, folks. So, Asia really doesn't need just a functional food that merely sounds innovative. We kind of have quite a few of those, and sometimes not great, and regulatory authorities get a bit upset when they're claiming things that they shouldn't. But Asia needs functional foods that meet those real nutrition needs, and it has to fit into daily life, okay? Got to be backed by that science, clearly communicated and trusted, and if we can really do that, this market for consumers can truly flourish. And so with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Matt, for your very insightful presentation. So we get a lot of information from the industrial perspective, and he really emphasized that at the end of the day, we would like to get empower from every stakeholder to let this happen. And it's my honor to pleasure to introduce our next speaker, a leader whose career perfectly embodied the spirit of turning science into practice. Please welcome the incoming IU Force President-elect, Professor Pavini Chinashoti. Professor Pavini is a true powerhouse of the food innovation. After a distinguished academic career in the United States, she transitioned to the global industry, leading functional health platform for major corporations in Thailand. She revolutionized the private sector R&D ecosystem by establishing Thai Union's first global innovation incubator, ensuring strategic platform for massive commercial growth. As the former president of FOSTAT and the visionary founder of FERN, the Food Innovation and Regulation Network, she works hand in hand with health authorities to create pathways for functional ingredients to succeed in the market. Is she here today to share the definite blueprint for our region, presenting on the topic Asian Functional Food Roadmap for Success? Please give a warm welcome to Professor Pavini Chinashoti.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, before I start, I'd like to say hello to all the friends here. I can see all the people who are actually, we are network, Fern, and thank you for coming, give us a lot of support. And also, most importantly, recognizing a number of folks from ASEAN, Fifth Star, also Fern team, which is really great for you to help us on organizing this. But I think today is a very special day, I can tell, because we are joined by Professor Chutima M. Chotawalanit, Dr. Dan Siri, who are the great supporter of running PMUC and also Nexpo. And Fern, very, very appreciative of the support in this juncture. We wouldn't have done this much without their support. And also a number of other government organizations, which is ADA, and also NIA. Actually, NIA, I have been involved with on the grant reviews and so on, which really helped us a lot. I'd like to start off with what are the road for success. When I came back from the US, having worked in functional food, realizing that actually there's a lot of gaps not necessarily that intentional gap, but it's actually because we are developing. And the country that's developing is so different from the countries that already have advanced. So actually, I was involved in reviewing FDA ingredients back in the U.S. So I kind of realized that, oh my gosh, here we still don't have a full function. So that led to the work at Fern. Today, I'd like to address ASEAN. And Professor Godfrey Sam is talking about Asia as a whole. It was really terrific presentation. I really appreciate that. And also, Professor Aman gave the very emphasizing the traditional and the value of our own natural resources and food. In ASEAN and in Asia, one of the important things that we need to realize when we talk about functional food, countries that can be very effective in making functional food into the market has got to be able to make their own functional ingredients. If you make functional food out of imports of functional ingredients, you're actually making the product, and then part of the profit actually go abroad. And it doesn't really support the locals. The indigenous and local growers are actually in need of that success. They need to be part of that success. And I really appreciate Professor Aman for saying so. It's really critical for our stability, resiliency, and health, and also longevity of our people. But absolutely, on the industry's point of view and economic point of view, we have to spread the profits down to the people at the source level. So we look at the functional food ingredient market. I don't need to tell you, it's growing fast, and it's growing fast, catching up with the functional food. Because right now, it's really a fight who has a better functional food, and the new ones that are coming out in the market, everybody go wide over the new platform and so on. And you can see that actually Asia Pacific is growing pretty well in the marketplace comparing to North America and Europe. So this, we haven't seen anything yet, correct? Because in Asia, we haven't really developed that much of functional ingredients yet. And you can see already we are here. So with coalition or with better system, I cannot tell you how fast we're going to grow with that. And the profit will go to mostly to the people and the ground. Another important thing is that you know that there are a lot of health functions, probably around 10 to 12 health functions that are mostly in the marketplace. And the dominators of these are actually companies or business that are from of the Western side of the world. In Asia, the largest market was about, this is an old number, but it's about 35, probably 40 up by now. And this is one thing that's really important, is that we need to look at local developments, whether it's turmeric, curcumin, indigenous phytochemicals, functional proteins, or the concept of food as medicine or traditional medicine ingredients that may be allowed in food, such as in China right now. TCM is allowed in food now. So the Asia indigenous raw material offer a unique competitive advantage, and we are prioritizing high potential bioactives for standardized, science-based backed global approval. In doing so, there are a number of things that we have to do for standardizing this material. And what we've heard somewhat reflection in the last few speakers is that there are some barriers to some Asian biodiversity, that we haven't been able to really bring raw material to the level that we can actually do claims. And some of these potent bioactive materials suffer from some regulations and some misunderstanding or not understanding what it takes. Really, the two sides of the coins. It's not really the regulator sometimes, it is the people who actually making that roadmap that do not understand. And this is why Fern, for having innovation and regulatory together in one group, one network, meaning that if you're doing innovation, you better understand regulation from the first day you start, not the last day you finish your innovation, because that invites failure. Working in a company before, when we were working on new innovation or new platform, we gather the concept, the first thing we do, talk to the regulatory vice president. And he would tell you, that as possibility, don't go there. Never, never do that. So it's directed from the very beginning. So scientists actually work on something that they know that they have that roadmap or channel that they can go. This is really, really important. And also in the process of regulation, regulation is really a bureaucratic process by nature. By nature, it is that. Well, we have to be able to understand that, and also we can speed it up, understanding how bureaucratic it is and how do you maneuver around those things. There are undeveloped NQI. Definitely, I think Ajahn Siri knows really well about NQI. The national quality infrastructure is really one of the important support systems that a country has. And if we don't have a good NQI, it will be really, really difficult to get products tested properly either for within our country or for exporting to other countries. I'm talking about standardized method, I'm talking about standardized system, quality system, standardized quality safety system, and so on. But having seen what's going on in Japan, I'm really optimistic, because Japan, the way Japan looks at things, they look with a scientific hat. And they say, is this relevant? Is this needed? Is this necessary? So therefore, in terms of analytical methodology and standardized, they said that if you have standardized method in the way that an analytical method is done, for example, standardization, you publish in a paper that really respectable paper, that's okay. So that released quite a lot of requirement from NQI loading standpoint. That if you have good scientists who actually conduct the analytical work that's really proven scientifically, you don't need to use standardized, really highest level standardized method if you already shown that. But understanding that using science to regulate is really a critical part of that decision making. And in Thailand, actually, what we do is that got to go to the high standard because we set the higher bar. This is to be secure, but is that overemphasized? There are also academic trap. Academic trap meaning that when you do initial research, or TRL 1, 2, 3, and you do a publication, you think that, that's going to go to a final product. No, it will take a whole lot more. You go to TRL 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes go 6, and then you find out, no, it doesn't work. Then you have to come back and start over again. So that's the trap. So another thing that's important is the silo of information that Sam and Matt already have talked about. It's a silo of not understanding what it is. So the information is locked within, is there, but it's locked within certain place that most people do not have. I realize also that the industry people are the one who understand the least in this. Academia, if they're interested, they can at least try to seek and find information, but it's still not easy. So that's the kind of thing that we still have to work out. And also innovation and regulation therefore have to kind of converge in a way. And Sam already talked about the meeting in Hong Kong, so I will skip that. Now, the way Fern works, we work at all levels of tiers of development. We actually, from the ground level, we work with scientists and coaching of the industry projects. We have coached probably about 60 teams by now. And some of the projects we actually, how should we call, champion them to the end point. Okay, we champion some of them to the end point. We have turmeric or curcumin project actually now have clinical trial already finished. There's a so-called catfish, but the name is changed now. It's not catfish to be different than regular catfish, but this is the fish that has omega-3 fatty acids. That's pretty higher than normal catfish, and this is already commercialized. We're working on colored rice. We promote some scientists to make cordyceps in a very safe way. Have you heard that cordyceps at one time had a really bad rap because somebody actually died from eating it, and it's because contaminant. So now we have researchers actually work on the safe step on making cordyceps, so now it's actually non-contaminants. So all of these is example of projects that we're working on, but also we work on knowledge gaps, closing. So we have digital platform, we have workshops, we have all kinds of, the difficult part of getting things done is understanding clinical trial quality, understanding systematic review, documentation of dossier in order to submit it to FDA. So this is a roadblock to a lot of scientists who haven't done before, for particular academics and also the industry. So we do that. We have workshops on those. And also have worked with Nexpo, actually on a lot on positive list proposal, because we developed dossier and monograph for Thai FDA, and at the time there was really no movement. And so we went all the way up with Nexpo all the way up to the Prime Minister's office to talk about what should we do with positive lists, what are positive lists, and who has positive lists, and how this is going to benefit Thailand. So we have a really good explanation on that, and we came up with 150 positive lists as a target. And Fern has developed dossier for positive lists, about 6 of them, and we have about 5, 6 in the works that we hopefully will get to do. And in the process of approval, as you can see, I don't need to tell you the story, but you can tell that if you're not ready for the approval process, most of companies actually will fall flat without being approved and not being explained either why. And we have looked at FFC Japan and proposed to the National Food Commission, and we got accepted by a concept to work on that with the secretariat of the committee, which are FDA mostly, and the other one is the positive list. So this is really to allow people who have positive list compounds in there can actually do health claim immediately on the product without having to do clinical trial again. Clinical trial is really not affordable by SMEs companies, and therefore positive lists, if we have pre-approved positive lists of bioactive compounds, then they can go straight up to approval. So this has been going on from what we have been doing. So Fern pillars actually have a number of things that I already talked about, but I want to focus on this. If we do it right, and we upskill the industry and scientists who work on the project with functional compounds, you actually can prevent about 60 to 70% R&D loss in expenditure. This by itself, paper by itself. You don't need anything else. If you need say, how good is it? This is really what it is.
And actually, the design integration, that's what I was talking about, is actually no integration when you do innovation. Actually, you know the predictability of go, no-go decision. So managing R&D in a company would be much easier if you have that. I will skip this because Sam already talked about the meeting in Hong Kong. But last but not least, we have to drive the approach on health claim substantiation with safety validation, bioactive fingerprinting, analytical part, clinical evidence, systematic review, and dossier submission. And what are we doing with ASEAN? What we're asking is actually let's normalize or harmonize dossier development so that all countries in ASEAN use one same dossier. We know exactly what should be on the dossier, and let Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and whatever other countries, let's agree on something that are in common. And this way would help a lot of companies. And in the end, we can do the same for Asia. And I hope that will give us that idea. So let's grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Pawini, for helping us go through the rigorous process of how she come about FERN initiatives and roll out to become one of the initiatives in ASEAN that we've tried to consolidate and harmonize how we could build trust among the consumer and also bring the goodness of the ASEAN countries to the world. So before we have a bio break and coffee break, I think everybody have a lot of food for thought already, but may need coffee to energize more. So I would like to give this opportunity to thank the organization who helped us put together this event, IUFO's Food Innovations and Regulations Network of FERN, GFOS or Global Food Regulation Science Society, FIFTA, Federations of Institutes of Food Science and Technology in Asia, Food Health FHS or Food and Health Security Foundations, Informa, Thailand Science Research and Innovations for making this event possible. And before we take a break, I would like to take this opportunity to take a group photo first. May I invite all the speakers and also panelists to the stage for a group photo first. I will take 2 shots. One shot is by the backdrop of the event. Or the esteemed speaker may also invite Professor Siri and also Professor Shutima, the representative from National Higher Education Science Research and Innovation Policy Council, to join us on the stage, please. And for those of you in the audience, make yourself pretty. We'll take the second shot with you guys. One, two, three, thumbs up. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank you so much. One more backward, like you're standing. Maybe standing here, turn around, standing here. Take. Yes. You can sit in the front row, please. Stand. And also, the audience, please stand up. I think you need to stand now after 1.5 hours. Make sure you see the camera. This camera can see you if you can see it. Thumbs up, thumbs up. All right. So we will take about 10 minutes breaks, and Professor Sudathi will have some QR code flash on the
Yes.
slide.
Yes, so with this time, before you going for the coffee break, I would like to take your phone, smartphone or whatever, give a quick scan on this QR code. This is a QR code will take you to the short Google form that you can drop your question, comments, regulation, concern, or anything that you want to give us, and or any real world hurdles that your company is facing right now regarding the Asian health claims. Our team will be collecting this information and organizing your input into the real time behind the scenes. Every question and comments you submit through this form will be handled directly to our expert to be answered and discussed at the end of the panel discussion. So please help us to scan the QR code and leave your comment, please. Thank you.
And please be ready and back to join us. The next session will start at 10:35. 10:45. Sorry, 10:45. Thank you.
In an era where consumers are increasingly focused on health and nutrition, the food industry is developing functional foods enriched with natural, health-promoting ingredients, especially from Asia, a region rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge with great potential for innovation. The Food Innovation and Regulation Network, FIRN, was established to seize this opportunity by advancing the understanding of health claim regulations and to build a strong network of researchers, experts and functional food entrepreneurs in Thailand. Since 2017, FIRN has continued to drive progress through a wide range of activities, from organising international knowledge-sharing seminars, developing educational media and knowledge repositories, and providing consultation on research design and preparation for health claim applications, to studying policy mechanisms for establishing a foods with function claim system in Thailand. FIRN is marking another milestone today. Together with the key partners such as the International Union of Food Science and Technology, IUFOST, we recognise the urgent need for a platform to exchange knowledge in science, nutrition, regulation and business development. The goal is clear: to accelerate the safe and effective entry of Asia's functional food ingredients into the global market. This event will bring together experts, researchers and entrepreneurs from ASEAN and beyond to drive tangible innovations in functional foods and advance regulatory frameworks that safeguard public health, ensure consumer safety, and strengthen the resilience of Asia's food systems. Together, we can transform Asia's heritage into global health solutions for the future.
The question is, in the different regulatory systems, the approval for new ingredients, in particular those new functional ingredients, is very different from each other.
This will be very important for the general population and help them to understand the usefulness of these traditional ingredients, how they can use it in their daily diet, in the traditional diet, how the consumption of these on a regular pattern can help in maintaining health, improving health. Approval by the regulatory authorities give them confidence of the science for these kinds of traditional ingredients.
We look forward to having so many organizations that potentially will be involved with us, including IUFOST, GFOST, and GFIRN as Global Food Innovation Regulation Network, which will actually be spearheading these concepts. Hopefully will grow around the world.
ได้ยินไหมคะได้ยินเสียงไหมได้ยินเนาะ
I think we have done a great job. We made a lot of progress in these discussions, and I think we have come to a great conclusion.
This will be a very fruitful project for Asia countries, not only for consumer health protection, but also for the development of the food ingredient industry.
A good platform for discussion among scientists, regulators, and also food industry in making good progress in this effort.
We think it's time that Asia must have a great way of managing and championing our own commodity functional ingredient and products through innovation and with a clear view of regulatory framework in order to make sure that we have scientific basis, it's evidence-based for safety and also health claim and communication to consumers
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
In an era where consumers are increasingly focused on health and nutrition, the food industry is developing functional foods enriched with natural, health-promoting ingredients, especially from Asia, a region rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge with great potential for innovation. The Food Innovation and Regulation Network, FIRN, was established to seize this opportunity by advancing the understanding of health claim regulations and to build a strong network of researchers, experts and functional food entrepreneurs in Thailand. Since 2017, FIRN has continued to drive progress through a wide range of activities, from organising international knowledge-sharing seminars, developing educational media and knowledge repositories, and providing consultation on research design and preparation for health claim applications, to studying policy mechanisms for establishing a Foods with Function claim system in Thailand. FIRN is marking another milestone today. Together with the key partners such as the International Union of Food Science and Technology, IUFOST, we recognise the urgent need for a platform to exchange knowledge in science, nutrition, regulation and business development. The goal is clear: to accelerate the safe and effective entry of Asia's functional food ingredients into the global market. This event will bring together experts, researchers and entrepreneurs from ASEAN and beyond to drive tangible innovations in functional foods and advance regulatory frameworks that safeguard public health, ensure consumer safety, and strengthen the resilience of Asia's food systems. Together, we can transform Asia's heritage into global health solutions for the future.
Hello. Okay. Shall we start? Could you please proceed to your seats, please?
Okay, welcome everybody back from the coffee break, and now we are coming halfway and we are into the exciting moment of learning about how to harmonize ASEAN regulations and R&D to overcome challenges and what need to be done. And with this panel, we have Kun Kalayani Chandrajert. She will be the moderators for this panel discussions. Please give a big round of applause for Kun Kalayani and also the panel speakers.
Sawadee-ka and good morning. Welcome everyone. Well, actually both in this meeting room and those who are on the online platforms to this panel session. My name is Kalayani Chandrajert, the moderator. And I'm very honored that we have our four distinguished guests today with us as panelists who are experts in different fields. May I introduce them first before we get into the subject matter? First of all is Professor Samuel Godefroy. Actually, as introduced earlier, you have a long bio, but to make it short, besides being the president of IU Force, founder and president of G-Force, Dr. Godefroy also had many important positions at Health Canada and FAO/WHO, and currently serves as a senior food science and regulatory expert on a number of advisory bodies and committees, domestically and internationally. So please welcome Professor Godefroy. Second, Ms. Charlila Ishak. Ms. Charlila represents the Food Industry Asia, or in short FIA. She is the head of scientific and regulatory affairs at FIA, which is a pan-Asia trade association representing food, beverage, ingredients, and packaging companies. At FIA, Ms. Charlila leads association initiative across strategic focused areas, including ingredients, food safety, labeling, trade, and halal certification. So please welcome Ms. Charlila. Third, Mr. Richard Kaur. Mr. Richard has extensive leadership experience in food science, including his roles in Singapore Institution of Food Science and Technology, which he served 7 terms as the president, quite a long term, huh? And is now currently the president of FIFSTA, which is a federation of institutes of food science and technology in ASEAN. His expertise extends to being a member of the expert panel on the Novel Food Infrastructure Working Group by the Singapore Food Agency, where he also served as the advisory panel and licensing advisory panel, and further appointed as National Codex Committee member on food safety. So please welcome Mr. Richard. So last but not least, Dr. Pavini Sinashot. She's the chair of Food Innovation and Regulation Network, or in short, you know that as FERN, and IU Force president-elect. Professor Pavini served as president, chair and advisor of many government and private committees. She initiated FERN and is now also as a founding president of Food and Health Security Foundation. She has an extensive experience working with food academia, scientist industry, and government authorities in Thailand. So please welcome Dr. Pravini. So welcome you all to the panel session, and thank you very much for joining us. And actually, listening to the presentation this morning, I'm very happy that we have heard of the progress discussed from the Food Ingredients Asia last year. And as you continue the discussion in Hong Kong, and today is a continuation of those discussion. And so today, actually, besides from what has been discussed, we will go a little bit into more detail on a different perspective of what was presented this morning. First of all, I would like to start the first question with Professor Pravini, who has quite an experience working with partners, different partners like industry, scientists, and government bodies. Why does current Asia food regulatory systems hinder food innovation? I know we have touched briefly this morning, but maybe you can share a little bit different perspectives from your experience working with. Why does the current Asia food regulatory system hinder food innovation or delay food innovations?
I think if you look at Asia as a whole, we have so many countries and many jurisdictions. And we have 50% or more of the population here, of the world here in Asia. We are very broken up in a way that, not that it's intentional, but the way Asia is very difficult to coordinate all as one on regulatory standpoint or any other standpoint. Just imagine we never had Asia as a whole. Food Science and Technology Association of Asia never exist. Why? Why? It's too far. As simple as that, right? It's so hard to get together. It's so difficult. But yet, we need to have coordination. It's like such as European Union is very easy. EFSA issues something, everybody does it. EFSA will go to each FDA countries, explain everything, everybody does the same thing. It's very easy. For Asia, for the fact that we don't have EU-like organizations, I see Sam is writing down, so I think he's going to establish one. But tell you the truth, it makes it very difficult. Now language is not an issue because we have AI. But the distance is really make it really difficult. That's one. Second one is also cultural difference. We are a very diverse group. We are very diverse in many, many ways. But yet we have a lot of things that are the same, in the same pattern. And what we're hoping to do, like what Sam was talking about this morning, let's do this convergence, let's do this in a similar fashion so that we will not create obstruction unintentionally to our own development. We have to develop together in order to grow as one because we have so much resources. We have 50% of the world growing plants and biomaterials here in Asia. So if you don't have that kind of coordination, it will be very hard. In the Chinese way of expressing is that if you have one stick of bamboo, it's so easy to break it. But if you have many, many tiny bamboos together as one, you can never break it. Same thing, right? So I think that's probably it.
Okay, distance, cultural differences, to make it a little bit difficult for
ability
ASEAN to kind of work together as one as at EU. But we need to. Listening from since morning, actually from in many events, we need to. And so may I ask Dr. Sam, so to me, there's a need for kind of a harmonized, a robust, a more efficient, more innovation-friendly regulatory system. How should this system look like in Asia?
Well, that's definitely not an easy question to answer, but I would potentially build on what Professor Pavani has indicated. Certainly, you know, the EU has reached something right now that many jurisdictions aspire to, you know, the existence of EFSA. And actually, it's making things look easy and accessible because it exists. But we have to think also about how the EU came about to create that. The EU as a community started in the 1950s, late 1950s, 1960s to be an economic community, and they established EFSA in 2007. It took them 47 years to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that Asia needs 47 years to do that, because, in fact, we are in an environment where we can learn from that experience, but we are also in an environment where the enablers are different. Whatever catalyzes the need, you know, the aspiration of consumers, people nowadays, I mean, if you compare the generations, you know, communication moves much faster. People move much faster. Diets are influencing each other much faster, which means that the way we regulate is getting closer much faster. The fact that codex also exists, I mean, let's also think of that. International harmonization did not exist when the EU as a community, it wasn't like an EU before, it was the economic market, the ECC, you know. Basically, codex did not exist in the same fashion then as it exists right now and the way it guides. And on top of that, we are also witnessing economic communities that are created in the form of ASEAN, ASEAN +3, when we think of you know, ASEAN, Korea, Japan, and China. So all of these are catalysts that will enable that. Now, of course, while these are incentives and enablers, in order to reach harmonization, or let's call it convergence, because I'd like to have, you know, more accessible ambitions, I think we need to do it step by step, in a stepwise approach. And frankly, we need also to be humbled by the difficulty or by the size of the endeavor that we are trying to achieve. At the end of the day, nations are sovereign, and they are entitled to have their own jurisdictional requirements, okay? But that, in and by itself, should not be a justification to have impediments in some markets and potentially, you know, more ease in others. In fact, all these enablers that I mentioned, all these catalysts should hopefully maximize or amplify these incentives in order to make the regulatory regimes get closer together. And I think learning by examples is what will allow us to do that. So essentially, learning from experiences. That's why, you know, looking at the experience of Fern, learning from it. How can we make it, you know, more ASEAN-like or more ASEAN-serving? How can we make it potentially more continent-wide serving? Doing that also will not happen overnight, and we have to also acknowledge that. So that's why thinking of taking some examples, whether be it pilots, some subsets of ingredients that we can work on, and that we can drive incrementally towards, you know, this convergence, you know, agreeing on safety assessment requirements, agreeing on claim substantiation requirements, even agreeing, and this now, because those elements can be science-driven. You know, the substantiation requirement, the safety assessment requirements are science-driven. But there are elements that are policy-driven. And those would require conversations, would require agreement on the level of protection that we want to have, agreement even on the level of openness, flexibility that some jurisdictions want to have. I'm going to give you an example. Would all claims be subject to the same scrutiny? That's what I mentioned. So the example that I always use, a claim related to whitening teeth versus a claim related to impacting or influencing blood cholesterol levels. Those are two types of claims, the repercussions of which can be completely different. Will you apply the same level of scrutiny and then the same level of substantiation requirements? And that's a policy discussion beyond being even a science discussion. One would argue that the claim related to teeth whitening, as a consumer, if I'm using a product that makes that claim, and after 2 weeks of using it, and if I don't see any change in my, white levels of white shade of my teeth, I'll stop using it. The other claim may influence the conversation that I'm going to have with my health professional and can influence my health products taking habits. And that can have broader repercussions if that claim is not fulfilled. So one could argue that if I apply a risk lens, the way I'm going to scrutinize, the way I'm going to be imposing the access to market of that claim can be different. And I can, and these are conversations to be had, in some situations I can apply the post-market approach for the first one, while I can strictly apply a pre-market regime, meaning a request to use the claim on certain products with a clear substantiation, and it's not only the substantiation of the way the ingredient behaves in order to lower blood cholesterol, but the fact that that is being fulfilled by consuming food. So in other words, the amount of food that I'm going to be having in the diet, does it induce that, or do I need to eat 6 kilograms of that in order to give me the blood cholesterol reduction? So you see, so those elements need to be discussed also from a policy standpoint in order to see how we can get there. So because of the importance of the endeavor, again, learning from examples, learning from pilots will help us go there. And again, and I'm going to finish with this point because, I can probably write a dissertation on this one. But the point that I'm going to finish with is transparency and information sharing is a critical element that will allow us to get to collaboration and harmonization. If regulators start sharing the information, or if the community actually contribute to making available the information upon which regulatory decisions are to be made, that will reduce any excuse that a regulator may have by saying, I don't have the information accessible. So let's start by making the information underpinning regulatory decisions available for certain categories, whether be it claim substantiations or safety assessment requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. That's quite a long answer, but to make it short, it's not an easy answer actually, but your keyword is convergent system. And it's a long-term process. I'm glad we don't need to take 47 years as in EU, because we started with what we already have, and everything is faster, as you said. Okay. So what we need is so more important is like information and knowledge sharing, learn from experience and learn from each other can be a step forward for that, okay? So may I ask Ms. Charlila, as a representative of industry, if we have, well actually I know it's a long-term process and we are on process for that. If we have such the system, like convergent system of the food regulatory, how would that impact what the industry is currently doing at the moment?
Thank you. So basically, before I start, I just think that for every single journey, we have to have one step. And the good news is, Prof. Pavini, even though we don't have Food Science Asia, we have Food Industry Asia, an industry that are representing ingredients, food manufacturers, packaging, and even the companies that are supporting the ecosystem in the foods manufacturing. So that's one good news. We have an industry that are working together within Asia. If to answer your question again, we have to go back one step behind to see where are industries right now. So industry are facing a lot of fragmentation within the regulation. I've shared by the earlier speaker, same ingredient can go through many processes, right? So that's one. Secondly, the key main point is the consumer, because no matter what we talk today, the end receiver is a consumer. And that's where with a generic information and communication on the label, consumer don't really understand the product. And even there are some products that communicate in such a way that the consumer is questioning the reliability of the communication. So that's the step that we are now. And the next step that we want to move forward, the end goal, is to have first the consumer trust, the regulator trust, and for industry is the ability for us to operate in a manner that optimizes the cost, but at the same time provides the consumer what they want. So looking back at that, definitely these are the three benefits, both to the regulators, the industry, and the consumer. And this is what we should work towards.
Okay, so definitely it will be benefits for both sides, industry and consumers on this, if you have the converged system. Okay, what about the impact to countries, the future of ASEAN? I mean, if you have such a converged system.
Yep, thank you. Well, the three panelists have mentioned quite a lot of informations from information sharings, about distance, about step-by-steps, and also consumer trust, which is very important, and also from our speakers this morning. So from my perspective is how we can actually help the industry to be able to get this faster. And while harmonizations and mutual recognitions takes time, 47 years in Europe, while we hope that it can be shorter in Asia or ASEAN, but definitely between mutual recognitions between the regulators will take time because everyone will have their own policies. While waiting for that to happen, how can we actually help the industry? So from the work that I've done, while I'm in the working groups with the health claims, substantial approval committee, as well as I'm actually involved in standards developments work in Singapore. So I'm part of the Singapore Standards Council. We realized that there is this knowledge that the industry needs to know how to actually get their health claims or nutrition claims approved faster. So with that in mind, we take into considerations the Singapore's regulators' requirements, and we actually also look at the region's regulatory requirement. We came up with a technical reference, which we call TR58. It's actually guidelines for industry who wants to develop products for nutrition and health claim. So in the guidelines, we actually go through the specifications step by step on how to actually guide the industry. I think this is a good starting step, baby steps, to actually help the industry to move into that. And next, I think Pavini shared in this morning's the dossier harmonizations. So while we can't get the regulators to actually move the harmonizations fast enough, we can actually, from the industry's perspective, can we actually help them to prepare a harmonized dossier that, when they use the same dossier, they can actually get approvals faster but through the different regulators. So we can actually have something like that to help the industry. So this is something that we can work from the professional bodies perspective, where FISTA can come in the pictures. We work hand in hand among the ASEAN countries to come up with the documents that will help the industry to get their approval easier in the respective countries. So that I thought is a good start, baby step to help the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. So you are a step further, actually, because you have already developed a guideline for standardization and to bridge the gap between the industry and the regulatory requirements.
Yes,
So
we saw the gap and we saw the needs of the industry. So that's why we came up with that. I can share the link to the standards if any one of you need. Later on, I can pass you my emails and to share these informations available.
All right, thank you very much. And actually, we can learn from that, yes. Okay, I think we have got a general picture of what is needed and how the new system, the future system looks like in a way, as we expected. You have something to add? Yes, please.
If I may, actually, because I gave a very long-winded response. If I wanted to summarize, actually, the two key ingredients that I find that can drive harmonization or convergence in this case. I think it's a mix of a bottom-up approach, which is essentially what we are trying to do. So essentially trying to harmonize the dossiers, trying to work on the scientific substantiation, everything that is, again, the enabler, the catalyst. But frankly, that will not be enough if we do not add a key ingredient, and that is advocacy. There needs to be a top-down approach that is driven by a strong policy or political direction that supports this harmonization. Okay. Those two elements are critical. And again, going back to learning from the European example, if those two elements were not there, Europe will not be at what it is right now. So essentially, it's also a call for continued advocacy. And again, each of the partners here represented can play a role in promoting that advocacy.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very important point, that we are not just working at the scientific level, but also to advocate at the political level to support these efforts or mutual collaboration. Okay, so let's move a little bit further in detail, because as far as I know, and this issue have been discussed actually in many events. And I think based on, as far as I know, based on the current movement of what was discussed in Hong Kong in April last year, this year actually, 2026, yeah. There is a new initiative on that, on innovation-ready food regulatory systems in Asia. How does that look like, actually? What is the new initiative on that, Dr. Pravini? And how does foreign involve with it, with this new initiative?
On the second day where we did the conclusion, we decided on three things that Sam already had showed, the three pillars. And one of them is actually to really get our involvement in terms of organization or groups who want to support this. For example, ILSI, Southeast Asia ILSI, FIFSTA, and maybe potentially some others. That will be kind of a bodies who actually overview and actually negate the direction. And the player would be GFERN, because we have something already on the technical side. We kind of ready to move whenever we see the activity that we need to act on. So that kind of framework kind of sets the stage of, one, finding funding from these organizations, and also governing to be all-inclusive among Asian groups that want to drive this. And of course, the stakeholders and some others. Then the second pillar, actually, to find sort of a case study where we identify goji berry and also GABA as an example of how we want to proceed with the regulation framework. Goji berry is particularly important because it's traditional of Asia. And you know that we always want to have traditional of Asia to be able to help claim. We always keep rejected. We keep rejected by EFSA quite a lot, all the time. So we wonder, what does it take to get approval? And this is the kind of thing that we need to plow on based on traditional use, based on safety records, based on a number of things, and also scientific evidence, so that Asia would have its own pathway, okay? And we see at different countries have started already. For example, China started looking at traditional Chinese medicine to be used in food, and their FDA is looking at the regulatory pathway to get a health claim. So we can learn a lot from that. We can learn a lot from Indonesia. We can learn a lot from Thailand and some others. This would be very instrumental on these case studies that we can put together. So within 2 years, we should have the framework already done and reported to IUFOS. And then the third one is actually assimilate knowledge. The gaps of knowledge is huge, so we need to really make sure that our network actually get the knowledge and language translation, all these things, so that everybody's on board with all the information that everybody needs to be equipped with. But I would like to add one thing that I don't think it's been said enough or never said at all this morning, is that enabling players is one thing that is underlying a lot of these things, particularly on industry ability to do in-depth R&D, critical thinking on the functional food R&D, and capability to actually do functional food is really key. Do they have enough research knowledge? Do they have enough wit in order to, to have that intelligence to walk through that? That is, I think, really important, because the player have to be equipped with that. That's one charge. And the other one is the regulatory bodies. Within each country, we are very different. I can tell in Thailand, as FDA in Thailand is so under-supported. In fact, Health Canada or US FDA is full with experts, internal experts, scientists who are very capable of evaluating their own proposals. In Thailand, we always use experts from outside because FDA is understaffed. And that recognition, I think, is very important. If you want to develop something that's very big for the country, you have to enable those players or authorities to really have more hands in their hands, not just one or two experts within FDA, and they don't have enough people to run. And I think that's kind of covered among topics that we talk about, because it's never raised. But I think it's an important issue.
Was it discussed actually to how to overcome those challenges that you just mentioned, like capability of the players and also this kind of expertise in the authorities at the authority level?
Right, their experiences, their experience to understand the science and technology from the industry point of view, the food science and technology point of view, a number of things, because we are also food scientists. But to do regulation right, you really have to understand, you have to have that experience. So in US FDA, they send people to work with other branches and FDA established food processing facilities. They established food processing facility, food safety center with processing ability. So the scientists in the FDA actually go in and out, work on this issue, and therefore they are much more, they have the concept and understanding what the industry is about. And I think this is underlying requisites for us to grow together. It's not just growing the industry, it's really growing the government body as well. Right. So I think we have to look at the whole ecosystem rather than just one. And the same thing goes with the national laboratory standard. The same thing goes with some other support group. For example, agriculture growing quality and standardization of good agriculture practices and a number of things, you know, all kinds of things, and then the agriculture product and raw materials that we're going to harvest this raw material from this agricultural product and make it functional food. You have to go all the way to the raw material end. And Thailand has a huge burden on that. And actually the government put much less money than it should on the technology that's needed for the agriculture. World Bank has reported Thailand actually invests on agriculture technology among the least compared to, very responsive to GDP that Thailand has. They should have spent that much more on that. So the infrastructure and policy, like Sam said, it has to top down. It has to be, they have to realize that what is really stopping the country from growing is actually those things too.
This is quite a big issue, and it involves different ministries and departments in the country. I wonder, probably we can learn from other ASEAN countries. How does this ecosystem looks like in other ASEAN countries?
Well, we face exactly about the same. but I thought I right on what Pavini has mentioned about the industry should have sufficient knowledge and how to actually apply and use. Well, when Pavini shared that there is a white list available, and if any companies are using ingredients in the white list can actually get a faster approval, but the industry also need to know how to apply this white list into their food, because ingredient interactions is a very complex knowledge thing. Sometimes when one ingredient you add into another ingredients, it may have other adverse effect. So industry need to actually have such knowledge and abilities to actually apply this ingredient that is in a white list correctly into the food that eventually will be useful for the consumers. So not any ingredients going into any food will have the same function and effect. So these are things that we need to enable the industry. So we need to have sufficient expert that actually support. And these experts also will be the one who also help the regulators. So currently, why approval is getting very long? Because regulators depends on expert support to do the review and evaluations of any applications. So for example, in Singapore, there is a committees that actually have academia and industry experts participate in the evaluations, but they can't meet any time that there's any applications come in. They only meet 2 times or 3 times a year, and therefore applications take very long to get approved because we have to wait for these meetings to convene before we evaluate. So how can we actually improve this is what Pavini has mentioned. We need to see how collectively we can work together on this matter.
So the experts actually is at industry level,
yes,
and some at academia level.
Correct.
Yeah, but the question is how to put together this expertise with the government for a quick approval,
yes,
not to take that much time. Shreya, I ask you from industry, and you are also working on these ingredients and etc. I'm sure you have the expertise in this. Have you had a chance to work with the government to support them in this kind of approval process or etc.?
Thank you. It's interesting to note that so many discussions about industry, and I'm from industry. So just to update about the work that is being currently done by Food Industry Asia, we are at the stage of finalizing a regulatory landscape of the health claims mechanism, meaning all the approval process within ASEAN and Asia. And in that context, we are also gathering the processes of EU and also US. So we are, as part of our service to our member, this is what we are currently doing, which is let's start with the baseline. Let's get the basic foundation. Where are the gaps actually from the regulators? Because as I speak and engage with regulators, they always say that I want the data. Show me the divergence. I mean, they have not seen. There's nothing in the website that say these are the gaps. So we're building that, and this is where we want to start with. And for Food Industry Asia, we also develop guidance document for our industry. So meaning we guide our members that this is the processes and this is what we should, these are the requirements. I think we should also go back when we speak to regulators, especially me from industry, they will have a certain mindset. Well, I'm paid by the industry and I'm here to advocate, but let's look at the perspective. We are all here for a reason, and that's consumer, right? And claims is about ensuring trust to consumer. So from FIA, we're building that with having the basic. Let's see where we are right now, what are the gaps, and show that to the regulators. That's facts, right? That will help them to build a policy. And the second part is when engaging with regulators is also about providing them what is the most important core principle. So Prof. Samuel talked about the scientific substantiation. Yes, it's good, but what about Asia? All the discussion, especially in Codex, is general, global. So in Asia, this is something that we need to start with, looking at the Asia context. And like today, I'm looking out at the crowd. Do I see any of the Asia regulatory stakeholder? Any hands from BPOM, FDA? BPOM is online. Thank you very much for joining. So this is a very important step where we have an open discussion and we see what are the common principles that we can work on. And from industry, we are not asking the regulation to be reduced in standard, but what we are asking is a more predictable regulatory requirement. That's the key thing. We are not asking BPOM or FSQP or even Thai FDA, please be more lenient to us. No, but what we are asking is, please provide with a clear, predictable regulatory requirement to facilitate our innovation. We can't afford to have like 7 years approval. The consumer will lose out because we have good products, we can't communicate, they don't know the benefit, and they don't buy. So that's something for us to reflect on and to start with. And for Food Industry Asia, one thing that we are always do is we have programs, public engagement. We participate in public engagement. Like Richard, I'm also sitting with the National Codex Committee of Singapore, and we work closely with Malaysia. And this is one area that we can work with. And FIA sits in as an observer in Codex, so we can do that. And finally, as we have all the experts here, and also the regulators listening, let's have a session where we can have sharing of whatever that we're doing, and some kind of a roundtable discussion where we agree that this is the first step that we need to do, both as an industry, academician, and regulators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shariel. I think you have brought a very important issue on, from the industrial effort that you are also working on from the industry side to make it easier to facilitate the industries to work, into the market, while at the same time you would like to have more direct communication with the policymaker, and also to have a more, how do you say that, expected regulations, not expected, but to be more communicative, like to know what is expected, from the regulatory side. I wonder, Dr. Sam, is there a platform for that? I know you are one of the key drivers behind the new initiative in Hong Kong. What is the short-term, what the short-term and long-term goals for that? And is there a platform for this kind of different efforts at the scientific industry side to meet with the political bodies?
Well, thank you for the question. I guess actually I'm going to attempt to answer the question by also building on what was said and perhaps actually emphasizing the importance of the reliability on talent. Having talent in food regulators, in food regulatory authorities that are able to process applications, that are able to develop those decisions and render them, is a key limitation. And by the way, this is not a challenge that is faced by Asian regulators alone. I can tell you that, again, in Canada, in other jurisdictions, we are facing similar challenges because food regulatory toxicologists don't actually grow on trees. A nutrition regulatory scientist does not get developed, just getting out of university. And by the way, that's a limitation which actually we can also address because we have right now an educational system and an academic system that either produces pure scientists or lawyers, and we need to get potentially that hybrid, the scientist that is able to work with policy and regulation. And that's essentially, by the way, what we call a regulatory scientist. And we need to have more investment in these disciplines, in these cross-disciplines that will both support industry for their SRA teams, so the science and regulatory affairs teams, but also support regulators in that. But that is a longer-term endeavor. And in the meantime, we need to think of other approaches. Thinking of having a US FDA or an EFSA in each Asian country is utopia. That cannot happen. So how can we do it? Two options that we can think of. One is potentially we build on regional initiatives such as ASEAN. And we know that ASEAN, for example, has a risk assessment center that is based in Malaysia. And there was a political decision to actually do that. How can we enable, empower that to be more catalyzing to this effort? Working with industry, addressing innovation, responding to the needs. That's one option. A second option is actually amplifying what is being done. Fern's example, and actually now getting to the answer to your question, what this initiative can do. Well, this initiative is primarily right now anchored in the Thai experience, trying to amplify it, trying to learn from it. And by the way, we're saying Thai experience, but also the Japanese experience, the Singaporean experience, trying to bring those experiences together, learn from them, and try to offer some practical solutions. The idea of an Asian fern or of a G fern, that's what we, the global fern, which is the broader aspiration, is really a step in that direction. And trying to support the availability of the scientific information produced by a coalition of partners agreeing on what to produce, how to produce it, and how to potentially use it is a step in that direction. Now, after that, we will need to think about the governance of that, meaning how the output of this collaborative effort will be used by regulators to make those decisions. And here again, we can have conversations about how G fern or Asian fern can be anchored in the regulatory process. How could we potentially also think of, in an innovative way, even in regulatory regimes and in regulatory governance, for example, trying to use the principles of what we call co-regulation. Co-regulation where the regulator is there to set the rules and what needs to be done in order to fulfill the rules, but the regulator can rely on a group of partners that is empowered with trust and therefore identified as a third-party neutral partner, still bringing together the coalition of the stakeholders, and that third party can be the one producing the information on the basis of which a review can be made such that a decision can be taken.
So thank you very much. That's probably the different structure that what is currently happening at the moment, but that might be one of the answer how to support the policy maker in making decision faster with a more thorough and inclusive with all partners at the time. Yeah. So I think to conclude this, actually, because we are running out of time, I think we have a very, how would I say, inclusive and very informative information for this limited time, 15 minutes. And this actually can be bring to a further step, discussed in the future events, how to continue with this, collaboration initiative and platform to bring together industries, scientists, academia, and regulatory body, in particular, how we can communicate and put them in the boat so that the gap is closer. Okay, so I'm sure for those, for audience in this room and as well as on online platforms, would like to know if they want to keep update information about this. What is the timeline, Dr. Pavini, for this engagement after this event?
Well, we were going to announce with Richard in the end of the session, but since you asked,
maybe briefly.
We are going to FIA Asia in Jakarta. We're going to make it a bigger event than this. This is just an appetizer. So hope you will follow us there and join us with a lot of content that you will benefit from, definitely. And the president of FIFSTI here assured me that he's going to really take on that organization with Indonesia. After that, let's hope that we have maybe a little small one or something on the way, but World Congress IUFOS in Hong Kong, which is in October, sort of last week of October. We're going to have a session there, and we hope that we'll have a group of people who are interested in following us, including some regulatory bodies who already have shown the interest in coming to the IUFOS World Congress. The work on the case study will continue into next year, and hopefully by next year we'll have a more concrete results on what are these roadmaps, and we will do a presentation. We'll continue on next year. We'll announce that. You can follow maybe GFOS and Fern website. Definitely you can Google FIRN, okay, and you see Food Innovation Regulatory Network and also GFOS. We are kind of in this together anyway, so look forward to having you with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe I just
yes.
to add, whatever GFOS and funds publish, we will probably put up on our FISTA website, which is currently managed by Philippines for us. Thank you, Philippines, for doing that. And of course, what Pavini shared, we will be working on, long-term plans, not just stop this year at World Congress. So we will continue our work, and hopefully we have something big to actually share at ASEAN Food Conference in Singapore in November 2027. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So there are ways to follow GFOS, Fern, and FIFSTA website. Okay, any final words, Charila, before we end?
I'll be short. Okay, so for FIA, we are having a similar effort to our members. We are going to have together on the FI Asia in Jakarta. And we also look forward to collaborate both with the academicians and also the regulator to benefit the consumer.
Okay, thank you very much. So if there is nothing more, do you have any final words for that? Okay, if nothing more, thank you very much for all of our four distinguished panelists. I think this is a very inspiring conversation, and I hope this will keep the energy and momentum, in the near future and so on. So thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you very much for the audience as well. Thank you very much. But please stay on stage for another 10 more minutes, sorry, because we are going to have a Q&A question, isn't it? Oh, no, we don't have any more. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, we're short of time. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of our panel members for that brilliant and thought-provoking discussion. So, but the roadmap is only useful if we only know how to take that definite next step. To wrap up our seminar and lay out our official strategy for this region, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back the man who set the vision for us this morning. Please welcome back to the stage to deliver our final address, Professor Arman, as he presents on the Way Forward Samurai Initiative on Asian Regulatory and Innovation Developments. Professor Arman, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I think it's very difficult in a short time. I have to make some kind of summary. I'm trying with the help of Stephen. We have the same name with Sam. Anyway, I think listening to all the presentation and also the very intensive discussion among the panelists, I just think about 3 paragraphs, and there is one paragraph for recommendation, the future works or the roadmap. So the discussion throughout the session recognized that despite ASEAN enormous potential in functional food, bioactive ingredients and health innovation, progress toward regulatory convergence has been slower than desired. Unlike more integrated regions, ASEAN faces unique challenges arising from geographical distance, linguistic diversity, cultural differences, varying levels of scientific capacity, and different stages of regulatory maturity. At the same time, every country must preserve its sovereign rights to protect public health according to national priorities. Participants therefore agreed that harmonization should not mean uniformity. Rather, it should focus on building trust through common scientific principles, transparent processes, and voluntary cooperation. Lessons from regulatory cooperation models, such as the European Union and the role of the European Food Safety Authority, demonstrate the value of independent scientific assessment, shared evidence generation, and coordinated decision support mechanism while maintaining national decision-making authority. To move forward, participants emphasizes the need for practical enablers that can accelerate convergence without compromising sovereignty. These include the establishment of ASEAN-wide scientific network, knowledge sharing platform, expert panels, and pilot initiative focused on health claim substantiation. Artificial intelligence was recognized as a potential game changer, enabling more efficient evidence reviews, regulatory intelligence gathering, multilingual communication, and real-time information sharing across countries. Existing economic cooperation framework under Association of Southeast Asian Nations provide a strong foundation upon which a science-based health claims ecosystem can be built. Rather than pursuing immediate regulatory harmonization, ASEAN could adopt a stepwise approach through pilot projects such as Global Fern. I think that's what we said also in Hong Kong. That test the common guidance, share evaluation criteria, and collaborative scientific reviews. Learning from these pilots would generate practical experience, strengthen confidence among regulators, and progressively support greater alignment of regulatory approaches across the region. From an innovation and market perspective, participants stress that the ultimate beneficiaries of regulatory convergence must be consumers. Food and health innovation can only create impact if consumers understand, trust, and use the products. Industry representative highlighted that consumers often make purchasing decisions within 3 seconds, making credibility, transparency, and effective communication essential. The convergence of ASEAN regulatory system would reduce duplication, accelerate market access, lower compliance costs, and encourage investment in research and development, particularly for products based on ASEAN biodiversity and traditional knowledge. The session therefore proposed the development of ASEAN guidance and common standard for health claim substantiation as an important first step toward a more integrated regional marketplace. Such a framework would not replace national regulation but would provide a shared scientific foundation that support innovation, strengthen consumer confidence, facilitate regional trade, and ultimately position ASEAN as a globally recognized hub for functional food and healthy promoting products. And finally, the roadmap toward the futures, I personally propose that first we have to build the foundation through regulatory alignment, science platform, and industry engagement. And the second one, we have to build also the ecosystem where ASEAN Health Claim Knowledge Hub, regional research collaboration, innovation accelerator can be done. And the third step is to build global leadership, where ASEAN multi-recognition pathway, ASEAN functional food innovation network, and global positioning. So as a strategic enablers, it is recommended to identify and collect talented available scientists, institutions to offer practical solution and collaborative efforts, and good regulatory governance, which say that co-regulation, what that Sam said. So I think we need to focus on science excellence, regulatory confidence, and industry competitiveness, consumer trust, and finally using the digital and AI infrastructures. So with that, I would like to conclude that the future of ASEAN health claim is not merely about approving claims. It is about building an integrated ecosystem where biodiversity, traditional knowledge, science, regulation, and industry work together to improve health and create prosperity for future generations. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Professor Aman, for structure our thought throughout like 3 hours of discussions to a concrete call for actions, how to move ASEAN health claim forward. And with that, I would like to invite Professor Pavini Shinnacho, the chair of Ferns, back to the stage once again for the closing remarks.
Hi, friends and guests. This morning is beyond my expectation. It really is. I mean, it really gave us a lot of direction, and I'd like to thank everybody who came on the stage, including Professor Sam, Godfrey, Professor Aman, Richard, Matt Kovac, Charilla. Thank you. You are our guidance, really, because Fern can never happen, or G-Fern will never happen without you. But actually, our discussion today, particularly during the expert panel, have profoundly underscored the crucial path, a harmonization of R&D with regulatory requirements is no longer just a technical necessity. It is, in fact, a strategic mandate. It's something that we must do. Otherwise, we'll never grow out of this space that we're in. So therefore, I think with this conviction, we'll see more of Fern growing with a commitment together with FIFTA, together with GFORCE, together with all other organizations, ILSI, and many other organizations, and also Asia altogether. I like to also would like to remind you that FIA Jakarta is our next stop. So I hope to see you all there. And Richard, you have something to say, perhaps?
So just follow up from here. At FIA, our team will continue. So the main team at FIA is turning vision into practice.
Thank you. With that, we announce the meeting closed. Thank you.
So, all right, before we end today's sessions, I would like to take a minute for you all to maybe give us some feedback on what should we continue to discuss, and also about further activities that Fern can bring about and consolidate those thoughts together. So please scan the QR code and also provide your input. And for those who are interested in having some of the slides from our speakers, if you could please answer your feedback, we will make sure that we send you the link to download. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, and looking forward to seeing you all in September
in FIA. And may I ask one last thing before we leave? Fern team, would you please stand up?
Oh yes, we cannot do this alone. We have
and Fern committee
a
as
big
well.
group of Fern committees. Ajahn Chanida. It's a woman power here.
We have a lot of leaders in our country joining Fern, and a number of them cannot make it here, but you will see more of them very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and enjoy your lunch.